but you mentioned that you were really batting for an artist called k.d.Lang based out of Canada. And honestly, I never knew who k.d.Lang was until I heard a song called Constant Craving. And actually, when I first heard that song, believe it or not, I was actually attending, I was in college at University of Delaware, maybe sometime, was it in like the 90s, early 90s, maybe? And I heard it. And I don't know, great song. This is kind of what the song, if you haven't heard the song. Great song, timeless song, epic song. Again,
one of my good friends wrote that song with k.d.Lang. We came up together as teenagers during the Rush Vanier era. There was a kid that I'd always heard about called Ben Mink, and he played violin and guitar. And we were friends because he was good friends with a band called the Hobbits that were near me. And we always stayed in contact. And then finally, we put a band together. Ben Mink actually played a bunch of gigs with Rush, but he had his own band called FM, and they were amazing. And Ben wrote that song. And I don't know if you want me to get into the story behind that song, but there's an amazing story behind that song.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You know why I think, you know what, talk about it briefly, because here's the thing. When people listen, I'm like, wow, that's an amazing story. Why didn't I think of this? Maybe like, I don't know, this can help me. So sure.
So the story is, when we all came up together, we used to all jam together, know each other. I'm talking about like teenagers, early 20s. And Ben Mink would talk about his favorite groups. He loved rock music. He still does. And he produced that record, by the way. He's a great producer, great musician. Anyway, one day he called me and says, look, I think the Rolling Stones have stolen my song. What? You know,
really?
What do you? He says, I think we're gonna have a lawsuit. And I said, okay, first of all, forget that idea, because the Rolling Stones are gonna have 30 lawyers. I said, what are you talking about? He says, well, they have a song called Has Anybody Seen My Baby? You can play that song if you want, Dean. Maybe the show.
Yeah, keep on going. Let me find it.
Oh, it's called Has Anybody Seen My Baby? Written by Keith Richards and Mick Jagger. Again, we're all kids from the hood in the suburbs of Toronto. And he's telling me that he's co-written a Rolling Stones song in his mind.
Wait, I found it on
play the chorus.
Okay. All right, here we go. I hear it.
Play the chorus.
This is the Constant Craving chorus.
Okay, so I tell Ben, who's my friend, you're out of your mind. Like everybody thought this whole idea was crazy. And then they got some lawyers that got involved. They got to the Stones. And Keith Richards goes, okay, my daughter's been home all summer. She had to do summer school work, something like this. And she kept playing Constant Craving by k.d.Lang. And I think somehow that whole melody and chords got into my head, which happens. And he says, you're right, Ben. I inadvertently took your song and made it Has Anybody Seen My Baby? So, which is funny coming from the Stones, because what's that band, The Verve? I mean, they stuck it to them when they sampled them. They really stuck it to The Verve. But with this, they were guilty. So not guilty, but they ended up giving Ben Mink and k.d.Lang a percentage of Has Anybody Seen My Baby as songwriters, which who would have thought? I ended up writing a song for Jeff Beck, which in my life of dreams, I think I almost fainted that day when I found out. And Ben ends up writing a song for the Stones. Rush go on to be one of the biggest bands in the world. Our area was Fred Mandel played with Queen, Alice Cooper, Pink Floyd, and he was the keyboard player. we're all from the same area. And so there is justice, you know, and the Stones did the right thing. God bless them. Like, you got it. If that was me and I had my song on a Rolling Stones record like that, that's history. You know, it's fantastic.
Well, you know, it's amazing and very humbling for Keith Richards actually to say, listen, you know, I listened to your song, it got into my head, and I wrote it again.
Yeah, I mean, for him to admit that, you know, and his daughter probably said, Dad, doesn't that song sound like one of my songs I play in the room? You know, k.d.Lang. And he probably realized that the melody and the chords, the key, the tempo, the whole thing was the same.